So we must remember in our history that what's labelled is, and we should also remember from our history that what's labelled as false by a minority of people can be invaluable scepticism, challenging a consensus, and eventually allowing truth to emerge. The truth was once that the world was flat. Luckily, the fact-checkers weren't around to ban those minority who challenged that view, and now we know a different truth.
My Lords, having attached my name to Amendments 52, 99 and 222 in the name of the Noble Lady Baroness Merron, respectively signed by the Noble Lords Bethell and Clement Jones, I rise very briefly. I entirely agree with what both the Noble Lady Baroness Merron and the Lord Bethell said, and I think the Noble Lord Bethell in particular gave us a huge amount of very well evidenced information on the damage done in the COVID pandemic and continuing to be done by disinformation and misinformation. I'm not going to repeat what they said about the damage done by the spread of conspiracy theories, anti-vaccination falsehoods, the kind of malicious bots often driven by state actors which have caused such damage. I want to particularly come at a different angle, and I think we were, unfortunately, until time prevented it, to go to hear from the Noble Lady Baroness Finlay of Llandaff, which would have been a very valuable contribution to this debate, because that medical perspective, expert medical perspective, would have been very useful. But I think she and I were the only two members currently in your Lordship's House who took part in the Medicines and Medical Devices Bill, now Act. I think the Noble Lord Bethell, that was before the Noble Lord's time. Oh, no, sorry, I apologise. The Noble Lord Bethell took part in that as well, and also I want to make reference to discussions I had with debates I had with the Noble Lord Bethell over regulations, changes to regulations for medical testing. Because the additional point that I wanted to make about disinformation and misinformation, and particularly this applies to Amendment 222, about the independence of the Advisory Committee on Disinformation and Misinformation. We are seeing in our medical system now a huge rise of private actors, companies who are seeking to encourage consumers, encourage patients to take tests outside the NHS system, to get involved in a whole set of private provision. We're seeing a huge amount of advertising of foreign medical provision, given the pressures that our NHS is under. And we have, traditionally in the UK, still have rules that say that direct advertising of medicines and medical devices to patients, there are very severe restrictions on that, unlike, for example, the United States, where it's very much open slather with some disastrous impacts that are very visible. And I think we need to really think about the internet, for better or for worse, is now a part of our medical system. If people feel ill, the first place they are going to go to before they call the NHS, before they visit their pharmacist or whatever, is very often through these providers. So we really need to think about this in the round, think about this as part of the medical system, and think about how our entire medical ecology is working, and that's why I believe we need amendments like these.
If I can just come in briefly. Noble Baroness mentioned two incredibly important points. We are seeking to give people greater agency on their own health. The internet has been an enormous bonus in doing that, but of course that environment needs to be curated extremely well. And we are also seeking to make use of health tech, non-traditional clinical interventions, some of which don't pierce the skin and therefore fall outside the normal conversation with GPs, and giving people the power to make decisions about the use of these new technologies for themselves. That's why curation of the health information environment is so important. And I just wondered whether the Noble Baroness had any reflections on that.
Intervention, and the Noble Lord has indeed made me think of the fact that a particular area where this may be a very grave concern is, of course, cosmetic procedures, and a whole area of concern, which I think we have debated in the Health and Social Care Bill. We also had. So these things are all interrelated, and it's really important we see these in an interrelated way as part of now what is the health system.
My Lords, I rise to speak to a number of amendments in this group, and I just want to make the point that mis and disinformation was probably the issue we struggled with the most in the pre-legislative committee, and that